This conference will now be recorded.
Appreciate our intrepid volunteers and followers to come out today. And I guess, Diane, I guess I can turn it over to you since you've been sort of working on organizing this green bag lunch as our sort of prime presenter today. But I would say all of you who are here today are going to be designated as deputy presenters. So I don't know if you need anything more from me, Diane, but right now I guess I can turn it over to you.
Yeah, this is more like a discussion among friends. Not really, you know, us talking to you as much as it is you talking to us and giving us some feedback, very valued feedback. And when we put this meeting out there, we said that this was all about looking at what we do that works and what we do that needs changing and what we can do to improve in the future. Really, that's kind of what we're looking for in a nutshell. The other part of that is, of course, the same malady that every nonprofit suffers with, which is lack of volunteers and lack of funding. So any suggestions to help us out with those things would be greatly appreciated. But I'll kick it off by saying, here's our mission statement. GreeningUSA advocates for sustainable communities to the benefit of local economies and environments. So we pretty much take a holistic look at everything that creates a community and how can we make that sustainable into the future. And sustainability meaning that you're able to sustain it for, you know, an undesignated amount of time. The Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee have their very own definition of what a sustainable community is to the 7th generation. So pretty much meaning endless sustainability. So what I said was, well, first we'll take a quick look back. And I know we do this at our annual meeting. We brag about all the stuff we've been up to. And as I looked at this a few minutes ago, I realized we've been up to a whole lot in the last year in spite of the pandemic. So I don't really want to read all these things out, but since we have Barry Carr with us, I'll shout out that we've signed an MOU with Clean Communities of CNY. So that would be a collaborative, cooperative association with them that we've had for actually quite a long time. Barry, did you want to say something quick? I saw you turn your microphone on.
Sure. I think I'm off mute now. Yeah, I'm actually, yeah, I'm happy to be the source of that information as soon as I learn the rest of it. But as I was stating earlier, some of this money that's coming through the Fed and through the DOTs on the transportation side. Again, this is just transportation money. Right? It's not everything in the Clean Cities program is for good or bad related to things that can have a license plate put on them. So that's light duty vehicles, medium and heavy duty vehicles, transit buses. I know that Centro, who's been a great partner of ours over the years, they have recently switched to, they're keeping their large scale natural gas buses, but they're now purchasing renewable natural gas, I think as of January 1st. So you might see a press release about it. I think that's a big deal. So they're procuring their gas through a third party that's coming from either a landfill or a wastewater treatment plant or an anaerobic digester. And at the same time, they've reached out about funding for some of the community buses. Those are the smaller, what I call type A buses. Those, they want to make those electric. And I just saw one at this school bus show that Collins Bus makes. It's frightening how much it costs. You know, it costs 3 times as much as the gasoline or diesel model. But at the same time, there are incentives and tax credits. So I think what you'll see in some of these, and I do this in my for-profit life, You know, I work for an infrastructure company, and we sometimes buy an electric transit bus, take the incentives, take the tax credits, because usually a public entity can't take the tax credits, and then use that to buy down the cost of the lease. So it can be done without taking any money out of the current budget. So there's a way to do it. We just did it at JFK Airport with some full-size electric transit buses, and each one of those carried like a $90,000 federal tax credit that came to us, and we just took that off the top of it. And with the grants, we got the cost down to be neutral. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I'm also hoping, if any of you have good relationships with the DOT, let me know, because that's who has to ask for the money. So DOTs and metropolitan planning organizations are allowed to ask for the money. It's supposed to be available as early, some of it as early as February. The rest of it hasn't been approved yet. Well, it's approved, but these programs have to go through, I think they call it the MBO or something. I don't even know what it stands for, but the money has to be put in the bank by the Fed before somebody can access the money.
So transportation is definitely a huge piece of the sustainability issue, and we're happy to continue covering those issues in our newsletter and making people aware of what's going on. And Barry just got offered up an opportunity to do a green bag lunch on all of that. So that would be a great opportunity for you to get into the weeds on what you're up to with clean communities. I did want to just quickly run through, what we've done in the past. We've been signing petitions. We did a green bag lunch on Blueprint 15, which was very well attended, a lot of interest generated. Signed another letter to Governor Hochul to transform New York's buildings. We collaborated with Focus Greater Syracuse and CNY Solidarity on a mayoral candidate forum, and I see Chris Bolt's on with us. Thank you, Chris, for moderating. Great job as usual. We had a green bag lunch on utility rate cases. We signed on a petition to beg Onondaga Community College not to discontinue their architecture and interior design program. That would be a real blow to our community. We had a green bag lunch on I-81 draft environmental impact statement, signing on to more things. The Congress for New Urbanism Reconnecting Community Programs, signing on to advocate for the Clean Air Council to strengthen their proposed air emission regulations. We signed on to deny renewal of the Norlight aggregate air permit because they're burning toxic waste to fuel their operation. Bad idea. Just signing on to a lot of really important, there are so many important things going on out there that it's mind-boggling. The Lafarge cement plant burning tires to fuel their operation, that's not a good idea either. We supported divesting New York State teachers from fossil fuels in their retirement plans. Talked about, we supported renewable energy standard. Our 17th annual meeting, again with the Big Tent, and we have this as a point of discussion if anyone wants to talk about this concept of the Big Tent at our annual meeting. And we were happy to have the mayor do the keynote on that. Green bag lunch on air pollution in Syracuse and the I-81 project. And we've been kind of intensive on I-81 the last several years because it's one of the most important projects to hit our area. More signing on to important stuff, energy efficient public buildings, lifting the cap on electric vehicle sale locations in New York State. Back in February, we actually had a session just like this to talk about, what matters to you? Signed on with New York Renews. So that's pretty much what we've been up to in the last year. In spite of, again, the pandemic, we've been doing a lot. And in this session, in our agenda, looking forward, the present, what's working, what needs to change. And I'm just going to run through the things that GreeningUSA has attempted to accomplish. Our 12 traits of sustainable communities is a topic that we could discuss. Barry Lentz said he was going to join us, but I don't see him yet. But apparently the city will be updating their sustainability plan, which is part of the 2040 comprehensive plan. Green bag lunches, John wants to reach out and find, what topics are of interest to you to hear about in the coming year. Sustainability Academy is our grassroots education outreach program. We help the zoo organize Party for the Planet every year in April. We can always use organizations and individuals to volunteer and help us with that. That's an excellent opportunity to meet hundreds of people all day long. And the other one is the STEAM exhibit at the New York State Fair. They added the A in there for arts, but science and technology, education. At the good graces of Howie Hollander has gotten us involved with that. Our annual meeting and our big tent where we try to bring organizations together to talk about what they're up to and how we can collaborate. The communications, I don't know if I need to talk about that at all. There's just a lot of different ways that we try to stay in touch with people. Advocacy, we mostly focus on signing on to petitions and letters. The proactive actions, we had this conversation at our board meeting on Wednesday, and we kind of agreed that we don't do anything proactive, but then I could come back and argue that, our mayoral forum and our Sustainability Academy, those are proactive, reaching out to the public and reaching out to elected representatives. And, the future for all of us tiny nonprofits who struggle for volunteers and dollars is really to, form partnerships and alliances and coalitions and collaborations, and come up with maybe a collective legislative agenda that we can all agree on. And I see Pete is on with us. Pete and I have been helping promote each other's newsletters for our, two different organizations, CCAA. And then under membership, back to that same challenge, we have, plus or minus 50 active members currently. I think at one time we might have been 80 or 90. And we've struggled with these questions over the years. Should we offer member benefits? Because right now the only benefit is the warm glow you get from being a member and supporting us. The quarterly member meetings, maybe people want more involvement as a member and joining a committee. And this last thing I have on the agenda quickly, we have people who show up at our board meetings from time to time, and we call those advisors. So if anyone wants to be an advisor to our board at any time whatsoever, please feel free to reach out and we'll give you the link to join us and join the discussion. We always appreciate new ideas and new perspectives. So, I think what I'm going to do is start from the bottom up, and I see Jeff is on with us. He is our membership chair, and he's also our secretary. Jeff, did you want to say some things about membership?
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good. You kind of got what we got there, plus or minus 50 members. I think a lot of the times when I've made what we've called the shameless appeal promotion to get more members, that's important. A lot of times most of the people here are already members. I think that's what you said too. We've struggled of what do we offer other than the, being part of this organization. Having all these members and dues certainly brings in some income, but it's not really about the income now, is it? It's bringing the people in and having them contribute their ideas and connecting and it's interesting to find out some of these things. I knew a little bit about clean communities and what's going on there, but I certainly don't have time to research. I'm bogged down with just residential air source heat pumps and insulation. And there's so many other facets that we can learn from. So I think we always want to keep pushing membership. We want to keep getting more people in, not so much to the effect of getting more money, but getting more ideas, because that's what it's really about. And yeah, we talked about the different committees there. I'd like to see some more. I'd like to see us be able to grow those committees more. I mean, I think the committees that exist now are basically 1- and 2-person committees of board members themselves. But yeah, I think the membership is good. Just keep bringing people into the fold. If you know anybody that's interested, keep bringing them around.
Thanks, Jeff. So what I want to put out there to all of you online with us is, would you expect a member benefit from us, or anybody? Member benefits? What kind of benefit would you be looking for? So you're just happy with the warm glow you get from donating and helping us pay our bills?
Yeah, well, Diane, maybe I can help to just start the discussion there. And that's important, paying our bills. I mean, we do have a small budget. So fortunately, we can exist or sustain on a small group of members that are willing to donate the dues, which I believe is $45 now, and plus some other donations that some of the members are generous to offer us. So that's a good thing. And in terms of when I got involved, it was to be able to have a connection to a group of people who are interested in sort of the same thing, and how to bring focus onto these important issues that we're dealing with. And I will say, I appreciate having that opportunity, and I think that's what GreeningUSA brings, is a group of people with the same community of interest having an opportunity to touch base with each other on a regular basis.
Pete, I saw you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Well, Diane, I mean, one of the benefits that we get from CC from GreeningUSA, sorry, is the outreach that you folks, I think, do really well to your membership base. And probably all of us need to remind ourselves that we are part of a movement. I mean, a very important movement. If the scientists are right, we have a very serious crisis that, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, it's a very serious crisis. So, the outreach you do, I think, is invaluable. I mean, we're all sort of small pieces of the this bigger thing called, I don't know, the sustainability movement, the environmental movement, or whatever. And maybe we need to remind the people that are on our mailing list that that's a benefit. So that's a benefit member that I see already that you're giving. Maybe you don't articulate it and blow your horn enough about it. I'll let you decide that.
So I had hello, sorry. I actually had an idea. How are you, Diane? Good to see you.
Jessica is with Focus Greater Syracuse, in case anyone wants to know.
Yes. Unfortunately, my camera, I've been having some issues with my web camera for the past couple of days. So I'm sad I can't put my video on, and I don't know how to raise my hand down here. So, but anyway, I was thinking, maybe when you think of membership, in getting the different types of membership, perhaps going toward looking at students. A lot of SU students, ESF, Lemoyne, a lot of them have a very strong desire to get involved and they don't know how. A lot of the times they work with maybe groups on campus. So, you know, maybe partnering with those groups might work, but also perhaps maybe doing like a student discount membership, because a lot of students struggle with that, and that might incentivize them more and offer some sort of, you know, resume builder experience to say, you know, hey, help us with this, come to these meetings, we can sign off on some like a resume thing, just say like, hey, you've done this, you're part of this, and that could be part of the membership benefits and coming to meetings or being part of these committees and working with students, because I know a lot of them are really want to help, really want to figure out how they can get involved, but either the membership part is tough for them, so offering a discount, but then also saying like, hey, if you do this, we're giving you resources, we're showing you how to help, and then also the give back from that is that they can put that on a resume, use that towards their own development, professional development, and where they go, and hopefully wherever they go, they have in mind that they, you know, their goals is to benefit the environment, and whatever, you know, whether they go into infrastructure work or policy making or teaching or any of those. So that's just kind of an idea I had.
No, that's great, and we actually already had that idea.
Oh
We
no,
offer
sorry.
up no, that's quite all right, and we're glad that everyone is thinking. But we have forever told students that it's a $5 membership and not 45. So feel free to put that out there, that if they're a student, it's worth $5. We've had some student outreach just recently, and thanks to Chris Bolt, we had a bunch of Newhouse students come to the mayoral forum, and I actually got interviewed a couple of days ago by a Newhouse student for a project.
Excellent.
So over the years, we have had a handful of student interns during the summer, and it's excellent that you mentioned that resume building piece, because we give them a project that they can successfully accomplish in 4 to 6 weeks. And then they presented a green bag lunch on that project. And that's something that they can put on their resume. So we've done some of that, and it's a matter of someone just continuing the outreach to students. You know, we have the great benefit of having so many educational institutions in Central New York. So all great ideas. I think the one thing we have to remember with students is that they come and they go quickly. They are passionate and involved and intelligent, but then they're gone. So coming up with something that they can successfully accomplish in a short amount of time is really key to working with students. So any other ideas? Yes, Bob.
Good discussion already. and Diane.
We can't hear you, Bob. Can you turn up your microphone?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Uh-oh. Still can't hear you.
Okay. No, get you later.
Yeah, check. I don't know if there's a audio settings in GoToMeeting like there is in Zoom, but there might be a settings page where you can adjust how your microphone is working.
Still can't hear you. Did you turn up the volume on your computer?
No, it's not. None of that. I don't think. Can you hear me at all now? No. I need to go back in. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could reboot it. You could try also calling in on the phone and use your phone as your microphone. That might be a simple workaround.
Okay.
Yeah. While we
or you could type a few bullet points in the chat, Bob.
But while we're waiting for Bob, Yeah, I was going to say, while we're waiting for Bob, I just want to thank Jessica for the, for the comment about the students. Like Diane said, we have in the past had different avenues where we have worked with students. I think probably partly because of the pandemic and partly because of people's just getting burned out in terms of the effort that it takes to continue that type of a program. Maybe it becomes work and a chore to make all that happen. But I'm glad you pointed it out to remind us, and that's the benefit of having committees. At one time, there was an education committee with, I don't know how many people, but it was, I think, at least 10 to 12 people on it, maybe even more. Some of those committee members were employed by those various institutions, including high schools, as well as the higher education facilities, and could possibly, do that. So yeah, it goes back to one of the first things that Diane and Jeff mentioned about volunteers and finding someone who has that sort of drive and interest in that to maybe take a hold of a task like that and make it a program on a regular basis.
So I just noticed that Abby joined us. Abby was an student intern with us in 2020 during the summer. She did a great project on large-scale renewable energy, and then she reported in on her findings at a green bag lunch. Abby, you want to talk to us about how we can reach out and contact more students to get involved with us? Are you there, Abby? Okay. Well,
well, another
I'm
thing.
having some tech issues. I'm so sorry about this.
I got Abby. Hey, Abby. Yes, we could hear you. Go.
Yeah. Hi. You want me to give a brief self-introduction?
Well, we were just discussing how we get more students involved with our organization. Do you have any insight for us, and maybe just a few words about your experience with us?
Yeah, of course. So I was a previous intern at the GreeningUSA. I conducted an individual research on clean and renewable energy siting construction across New York State. And I was connected to the organization through the Career Center of Maxwell School, Syracuse University. And I think this would work perfectly for other students at either Maxwell School or other schools. Especially, I learned that John has some initiatives on communications perspectives of the work that the GreeningUSA do as an organization. And I think some students from the Newhouse School who major in communication studies would take great interest in these initiatives as well. And also, my cohort and I did a public relations campaign for the Golisano Hospital. And I know they have some very outstanding public education efforts across the community to raise people's awareness on some health equity initiatives they have. And perhaps we can partner with them to advance our agenda or missions. That would be one way we can consider. And I think partnering with Syracuse University and the larger student and alum community as well would be another option for us.
Great.
Another thing I sort of thought about when, as Abby was talking about, especially the alumni community, perhaps not the alumni community of just SU, but students who left Syracuse, went to school and came back. Now they are in Syracuse, recently graduated, trying to find a job, trying to find a footing back in their old home. And that's a great way to really reach out to people who are, all they know about Syracuse is what they had from childhood to high school. They're back now. They're living with family for maybe a year, just or got an apartment. And a lot of those people are looking for a community. They're looking for something to reconnect them to where they are, because either they, couldn't live in their college town or wherever, so they're back. There's an app. I don't know how much it is used in Syracuse. I used it a lot when I lived in abroad, called MeetUp, and that's a great place to put like events and groups of people who are meeting. And I think some people are starting to use that when they've moved back and they're like, oh, hey, how do I get reconnected? How do I connect back to Syracuse in a way? And even starting at the high school level, starting to get people, even just working with local high schools, then people recognize like, oh, I remember there's that group GreeningUSA, because that's also an untapped resource. We look a lot at college students and we look a lot at adults, but that middle ground, those 20 to 30-year-olds who just moved back, and those young professionals who are trying to find a footing in their community, that's a good way to go. And even starting at the local high schools, we'll start to get people to remember when they come back in 4 years.
So Jessica, what was that app to communicate with alumni?
It's called MeetUp.
Oh, MeetUp. Oh, okay.
Yeah, one word. And it's just like groups. So there's like the Syracuse Adventure Outing Club, the Syracuse Women in Machine Learning and Data Science. So those are just some things on here. And people are starting, especially with the pandemic and people realizing that they have no connection to their community and they're lonely. A lot of people are starting to use these apps because it finds them groups that have similar interests.
Great. Do you think that members would like to have a quarterly meeting? I'm not sure. Anybody have an opinion? Bob, can you talk to us now? You're back.
I'll try. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yay.
Yeah, I found I have a Bluetooth speaker that screws everything up on this particular platform, so I'm sorry about that. Hi, David. Good to see David there too.
Yes.
Original founder, champion.
I just got back.
Great. Thanks. I heard a lot of the comments, and I just wanted to, as I try and usually do, is listen to 3 or 4 things simultaneously, and of course that screws me up really good. But I heard Jessica and Pete say some interesting things, and I wanted to go back to the value of GreeningUSA. And Diane, I've got to say, if you can not get too red in the face here, but your newsletter is outstanding and absolutely incredible in terms of a resource and the work you put into it to connect so many different entities, that I see that as a bit quite unique to GreeningUSA. And I've used it in many ways. I've gone different places from it and never told you that. I may have once or twice, but it's a great network, and the openness and the broad comprehensiveness is what's the strongest suit of GreeningUSA. Now, if you look at your newsletter and you look at its comprehensiveness and you look at the foundation of GreeningUSA being essentially in the 12 traits, in other words, municipal and comprehensive, I think that's something that is unique, and therefore, no, it's so hugely comprehensive that it's very hard to deliver on all fronts, and you know that as well as any one of us does. It goes back to Barry Carr's earlier comments about the complexity of tracing funding through the agencies that it has been set up to funnel through so that we can't see it. What I mean by that is small groups can't reorganize some of those funding streams to the comprehensive sustainable issues that we see, and they are channeled through years of different agencies nurturing those channels to their own agencies. So I'm trying to find out if there's something unique there that is, it would take a lot of effort to support the comprehensiveness in terms of delivering to either municipalities. And I see it also, I mean, municipalities is one thing in terms of comprehensiveness. The other one is education, which you mentioned clearly. And the education, and Jessica and others have mentioned, it's right at the high school level. There's more probably understanding of comprehensive sustainability at the high school and the younger levels than there is at the senior levels, just due to what we've all lived through and the energies of each of our own careers. But I'm trying to get at what's unique and what's a deliverable from Greening USA. And I think solidly sustainable comprehensiveness is our #1 suit, thanks to your efforts and the board's efforts. And I'll leave it at that.
I thank you, Bob. We'll put that under stuff we're doing right.
Right.
Yeah, and when I listed Sustainability Academy, I neglected to list the fact that that originally was Education Committee.
Mm-hmm.
So our initial concept for this organization was that there's two main branches of efforts, and one is top-down, which is 12 Traits of Sustainable Communities to educate government leadership, and Sustainability Academy, which is grassroots education and just talking with the people about sustainable topics. So yeah, education. But then in the dusty past, we've been around since 2003. So in the dusty past, our education committee also had a focus on reaching out to high school teachers. And they had a couple of sessions at the Syracuse Center of Excellence about, teaching sustainability in the classroom. So these are all things that we've done in the past, things that we would like to resurrect again.
Yeah, and just a sidebar comment, Jessica, from our focused experience, this is a very, a lot of resources are required to deliver that. A lot of time and certainly support dollars. The more numbers you get into, the more it is. And so fundraising is a key thing in terms of any of these missions, obviously. And funding stream, whether it's transportation dollars that will be coming more, or community healing dollars. And I'll go back to a point that Barry made earlier about right now and for the next 5 years with the DOT project, there's going to be a huge amount of energy. And there was a seminar yesterday morning at Martin Luther King, which I did not attend, but it should be heavily in the news, about the severity of lead poisoning in our kids. And the DOT right now is, in my view, even though they think they're handling this problem, they have no idea how severe this problem really is and unique to Syracuse in terms of the amount of lead and the amount of lead that's coming through the deconstruction of the lead-bearing bridge structures that are all through our community. And
right.
I think to Barry's point, if there was a way to assist through our sustainable knowledge, networking some of those dollars into these specific needs locally, that would be a great thing for us to try and then get some funds for our efforts in those areas.
Yeah, this issue of teaching sustainability in the classroom, I know teachers are overwhelmed already with the curriculum they're required to teach. And this issue, having Bob, you and I worked on K through 12 projects forever, we know that the New York State Education Department, SED, has they have final say over what gets taught in our classrooms. So, maybe we need a lobby effort to New York State SED to get sustainability taught in the classroom. That lead issue is actually two-pronged, because we're still dragging our feet removing lead paint from housing. And then the other issue is taking down the viaduct, and how much lead is that going to push up into the air and into the surrounding community. So many issues in so little time, but anyone who wants to get their arms around any of those things, just let us know, and see what we can do.
Speaking actually as somebody, I went through in my undergrad the education major, and so one great way to get your foot in the door with those requirements is taking the New York State core curriculum, and if you can make a case to a teacher and say, this, and this is what we check off, this is what will be taught, like this is what we can do, I guarantee a teacher would be very happy to work with you. Or if you have something already set up and you can prove, rather than trying to change the curriculum right now and lobbying for that, work your way into the curriculum. And, you know, getting somebody who, you know, either a new teacher who wants to work with you or a student in the education department, we are taught kind of how to tailor lessons to a curriculum. So if you can say, hey, these are the Common Core state standards and the New York State core curriculum standards that we would be covering if we were to come into your classroom and do this, you would make a teacher so happy. Because a lot of, you know, a lot of what's going on is hitting those marks, hitting those requirements. And I don't want to say it's fairly easy, but if you can pull from that list and you just pull the exact language, exact pieces that you're saying, yeah, this is what it's going to show, you can it makes it much easier to be able to say, we can come into a classroom, and they'd be much more willing to do that because you're showing them exactly how it's going to fit.
Yes, Bob.
Thanks, Jessica. I just wanted to follow your lead there. Actually, you're right, Diane and Jessica. It's going to be hard for us to obviously transform anything at the state education curriculum level. However, if we can offer a unique and comprehensive package, which is we do have, whether it's the 12 traits or it's our knowledge, and make it a package that schools can pay for, then and what I mean by that is ESF does this right now with summer programs that they have for students, for high school students in environmental. And if you do a short-term package, it could be anywhere literally from maybe as short as 2 weeks, but more like 4 to 6 weeks, where students could come 2 to 3 times or once a week. And you can offer it for $1 value on student participation to a curriculum at a school. And in other words, have them come to us and hire us for a package that they don't have in sustainable or municipal planning. That's what I would offer. Now, again, focus, we could brainstorm this at focus as well relative to the experience and the costs for doing that kind of thing, because we do the Sustainable Academy program, and it's supported heavily by dollars from SU and other corporate folks, but it's a huge amount of effort, Jessica will tell you clearly.
So we did in the past, there were a number of teachers that were interested, and that's the source of, I think we had 1, 2, or 3. I think he called it spring greening. It was Greg Michael who went on to found the Onondaga Earth Corps. And but Greg Michael, I think it was 3 years in a row, he did something called spring greening, and he rounded up teachers. They actually managed to get time off from teaching to attend this session. So there are teachers that are interested. The question is, where do we go now that we don't have someone who actually knows how to reach teachers? We did for a while have New York State master teacher from Lafayette, I believe. Scott, you were a librarian down in Lafayette, right? You work with the schools there?
I tried in various ways to do that. One of them was to the Big Picture School, which is kind of it's part of the Lafayette School District, and but it's kind of an alternative, more hands-on form of education. I don't know what better way to explain that, but so I've tried different programs. It's really, it was really difficult because, like, in September, we would go into trying to develop a collaboration or a connection with good intentions, and then once everybody got into their year, it just like, it was really hard. So.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed the chat box, but Chris Bolt talked about there's a summit on lead poisoning. It's coming up for lead testing, mitigation, regulations that apply. And Chris is moderating the discussion in mid-January. So he said he'd be glad to report back to GreeningUSA about that at some point. So thank you, Chris, for that. Another really important issue, because, you know, lead poisoning for our children is horrifying.
Hey, Can I jump in real
Yes,
quick?
Pete.
This is Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, yes, Jeff, jump in.
Yeah, I was just thinking as we were talking about the student conversation. I think that's something that we really should put some focus on. Time is another thing. But yeah, engaging the high schoolers, and I don't know where I'm going with this other than thinking about like flipping it around rather than us going in there and trying to explain sustainability and teach them. I wonder what benefit we could have of them coming back to us and in essence teaching us, because they're going to be the ones that are really taking on this fight in the next. Well, everybody's taking on the fight, but they're the youth, if you will. I don't know. I'm just kind of kicking that idea around of flipping it around rather than us going to them coming to us, but us inviting them to come to us. So I'm liking this conversation about the students.
Yeah, and there was 3 different years when I got invited to speak at the New York Youth Climate Summit, and that's a great experience. They were high school students. 2 of them I went to at the Wild Center up in the Adirondacks, and that was a combination high school and college students. And then the one I went to down in, I want to say Cortland, that was just high school students, but the level of understanding they have at that age is amazing. We really need to, align ourselves with that event. I think that just happened maybe a month or so ago, and we were not involved this year, but we have been in the past. So that's another way to reach students, is through the New York Youth Climate Summit.
So I'll chime in. This is Chris Triley, currently treasurer for GreeningUSA.
Thank you,
so
Chris.
I've only been on the board a little while, but and why I joined and what it sounds like from everybody is it's for me, it's hard to navigate information. And I heard some people and Bob say about the newsletter and the information that brings forth from various different, kind of bringing in the 12 traits, maybe something happening in transportation and something happening with local government. There's a meeting, and I feel like GreeningUSA is kind of a outlet to kind of manage all the noise and get to the trusted information and present it to people, and that that newsletter really stands out. Of course, us getting into students and drilling down on how to actually get to students is certainly a conversation, but it always seemed to me, and especially the big tent event, it's that GreeningUSA is this centerpiece that brings non-for-profits and information together. For example, Chris Bolt mentions he's going to, he's advocating in his world for something, and he's doing something, happens to be for lead, and we know Chris does a lot of things for the community, and then he's going to report back to GreeningUSA. And Barry Carr is working with transportation, part of the 12 traits. He's doing his part, and then he's reporting back to GreeningUSA. And I'm just thinking we could, we're a proponent for other people in specific, other organizations in specific realms of the 12 traits, and then we take that information and disperse it to everybody. So I'm thinking, I'm just hearing that we're good at that, and I think maybe we could bolster what we're good at, and maybe even a step further, like, yeah, Barry, if we could help your cause by, if there could be money put in, you were mentioning some specifics earlier that like we could, I don't know, put into the newsletter, and not to generate more work, but that's kind of if we're good at it, I'm saying why don't we bolster that. So that's my comment, and I want to introduce myself. So hi everybody.
Hi Chris. Yes, Pete, you wanted to say something.
Well, in terms of education, Diane, I think it's almost a given when people talk about education, they mention schools, and I think we're actually sort of missing the boat, because for the majority of our lives, if we live a normal lifespan, you know, you're 50, 60 years, you're not in school. So I think we also should think of education in terms of the adult public, you know, the adults. I hate to say it, and I rarely watch it, but every now and then I force myself to watch Fox News. And when I think of the impact it has as an educational outlet, news media, you know, reaching tens of millions of people and educating / forming how people think. So I would encourage us to think of education as not just schools.
Right. Yeah,
to-
and that would adult continuing education, and you know, how do we do that?
How do we do
to
that?
act-
Oh,
Oops, sorry.
is that a question, Diana? How do we do that? Or,
Yeah, how do we do it? Adult continuing education.
well, I mean, I think we do it by trying to influence news content, and which, you know, which is, yeah, influencing news content and the issues that we think are important. You know, sustainability, climate change, you know, 81, whatever. I would suggest that's one way to do it.
About connecting with like organizations like Oasis, for example, they have a lot of great courses, and it's for adult programming. And I know with the library and the sustainability initiative that I'm still working on, we've been trying to focus on educational programming. I mean, we had a meeting today just before this one, and we're trying to focus on programs that we can put out there to educate people. Like one thing that came up that we're going to start with is an introduction to drawdown. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, but the Drawdown Project, which is an international program, and it's it's subtitled actually, you know, the most comprehensive program or whatever on climate change you'll ever find. And it's true. They quantify, there's a whole range of subjects like agriculture, practices, diet, education of girls, you know, recycling. I mean, there's a whole bunch, and what they do is they quantify, if you do this, it'll cost this much, because it could cost $6 billion, but you'll save in the long run, you know. So it quantifies all the environmental, like the reducing your carbon footprint, and it quantifies that. Anyway, because, you know, I think this has come up a number of times, there's not a sense of urgency. And this is something that is not, we can't wait. We can't kick the can down the road anymore. And so, you know, I think trying to find ways that's going to stay, in terms of education, to try and stay out of the political realm, because once it gets mixed up with that, people just shut down or have a preconception without, you know, really being an educated or informed about what's going on. Like you mentioned Fox News. I mean, you know, they are informing people, that's for sure. But anyway, I think connecting with some of the adult, you know, who else does OCC offer adult education? Don't they offer adult education classes? Like maybe trying to, you know, get into those kind of organizations might be a way to do it. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I used to teach at BOCES. That's another possibility.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there is somebody from BOCES that's part of our initiative also. So
yeah, all good ideas.
It's one other thing I wanted to bring up, like throughout this thing, and we've sort of touched upon it, or subsets of it, but you know, like climate justice. which gets more into the social equity realm of things. Just before COVID hit, I think, Peter, you were at this that climate justice workshop. It was at that school.
Right.
And it was supposed to be 2 parts. The second part never happened because it was like, the first part was like that February or something. And it was very powerful, very powerful. One of the things they did, and at first I thought, oh, this is be kind of, I don't know, whatever. They set pictures up around the room, and and it was all different kinds of environmental circumstances that you might find yourself in. And then everybody had stickers, and they went around the room, and so it was a real visual effect. This is what I deal with in my everyday life, these different types of things. And they had things like, you know, gas station right next door, you know, groundwater being affected, just a whole wide range of things. And it was like, wow. So there's so many things that, like, say, I'm not dealing with that a good part of our population is. So it brought to the surface a lot of things that, you know, like, so to know what everyone's experiencing. Sort of took you out of your own little bubble. So I think that's an area where I'm really interested in going into, is more of the social equity type of stuff as related to climate change and, well, equity, period.
All connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected, and it's in our mission statement. So
Okay.
I think with the time that we have left, we have this very meaty topic. Well, John, did you want to go over green bag lunches and talk about, you know, ask if there's any interest in, you know, specific topics?
Yeah, you know, the only thing, Diane, that I guess I'll start by saying is, you know, green bag lunches have been for a long time now, thanks to the suggestion that one of our founders, David Ashley, made at a board meeting at one point, and it's like, we should have a Friday afternoon or session and have people come in and talk to us about what they're doing, and that's became like one of our primary means of education, right? Is by having people come in, share what they're doing, and inviting others to come in and listen to them. So I think it's been quite a successful effort on the part of GreeningUSA. And this past year, we held 8 green bag lunches, weighted a little bit heavily on the big elephant in the room, and that's the I-81 project. A little bit, I think 5 of the meetings had some, 2 of them directly with I-81, and I'll say thanks to Bob Haley for organizing 1 or both of those. I can't remember. I think you probably were involved in both of those, Bob, so I appreciate that. Greg, Michael, and the Onondaga Earth Corps folks did the other one, and primarily about the air quality issues and some of the stuff that they were doing relating to air quality and in the tree planting effort, which is so you know, so important. In terms of trying to take some of that moisture out of the air, but it's been, I think, a very successful thing. We started early on with green bag lunches. Were geared fairly specifically to the 12 traits. Over the years, we kind of modified that and leaned more heavily into what our community issues that are important that people wanted to talk about and hear about. But those things were also, in a sense, because related to the 12 traits, because the 12 traits are intended to be somewhat, you know, covering a lot of ground. I, you know, in terms of coming up, I would appreciate suggestions, but I also appreciate, people's volunteering to sort of organize one. I know, in addition to Bob Haley being helpful in the past year, Barry Lentz has been helpful to GreeningUSA to say, yeah, I can get a panel together for you. I can pull some strings with some of the folks doing Blueprint 15, or since he's an insider with the mayor's office, helping organizing the mayoral forum. So I appreciate people stepping up to do that. It is, a difficult task to try to keep on top of doing a program every month. So the more hands available to do that and to offer things is definitely appreciated. And even someone who's doing research on a topic. We intended this this green bag lunch program to kind of be modeled as some things that sometimes happen in universities, right? Where people who are working on various projects sit down with their colleagues and kind of just explain what they're up to as a way of educating everybody else and bringing people together. So I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to volunteers. I'm open to having speakers. There's a lot of things that the board is seeing out on the horizon for the coming year, not least of which is like some of the Onondaga County things that are happening. A note from Lisa Warnicki, I think this morning, even suggested that the county's got all this developmental stuff going on, but we don't really have an Onondaga County environmental management council anymore. And what's the deal with that? So I guess that's enough. If anybody has any comments or suggestions in terms of their thoughts on what's working in the Green Bag Lunch program and what's not working and what we could do a little differently, I'd appreciate hearing that. And maybe one last thing is certainly the question of virtual versus in-person. In this pandemic stage is one that the board has had, and we're still wrestling with. My outlook, I guess, is we're probably going to be virtual for at least another 6 months, but who knows? I'll yield my time, Diane.
All righty. Any feedback on green bag lunches?
And yeah, I'd like to thank John for just doing a great job with green bag lunches. I mean, without his initiative and hard work on it, it probably wouldn't exist today. But thanks, John, for doing a great job with it.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Agreed.
Let's see, John, here's a comment and a suggestion. COVID is a permanent feature of our lives. We need to accept that. It's not going away 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. It's like the flu, it's here. I'm not saying you should go back to in-person meetings, although that I'm ready for meetings like that, and I think there's a benefit to it. But COVID, it's a permanent factor of our lives. In terms of suggestions for a meeting, public health impacts of climate change on Central New York. There were 2 articles in the last 6 months, one in the last few weeks on how there is more mold appearing in people's homes. Wetter summers, hotter summers, and that's going to continue, and it's going to get wetter and hotter. So that was something the Post-Standard carried. And the other thing is this past summer, and so many people were talking about it, but there was also from the Department of Health, and the Post-Standard had a story on how there was a 2,500% increase. That's 2,500% increase in the number of mosquitoes this summer as compared to last summer. Mosquitoes are a disease vector for what is it? What is it? I don't think we have dengue fever here, but we do have some mosquitoes.
West Nile.
Yeah, West Niles, which have killed people in the last 10 years in Onondaga County. So it's a local issue that would involve the county, the Department of Health. People, I think, could relate to it. It might generate a lot of interest.
Yeah, good
So Pete,
suggestion.
you want to organize that for us, Pete?
I mean, I would be willing to help, but organize it, you know, I can't keep my head above water with CCAA. So
If you have
I
names of
would be
people,
willing to help if there's some type of committee. I don't want to spearhead it, but yes, I would help, Diane.
yeah, if you have names, suggestions for panelists, experts, and I keep, Department of Health is probably a good one, but
Okay.
to come at the impact of climate change from different aspects, like maybe somebody in agriculture. We've got a lot of outstanding resources up at SUNY ESF and SU, and maybe Scott can come up with some people from the library perspective. Yeah, if we can come up with a panel of experts that would have some different perspectives on that, that would be great.
And in terms of a panel, Diane, what's the numbers? Two, three, four. What is your normally your panel size?
We've had as many as 5.
Okay.
3 is really easily manageable, but if you come up with 5 really outstanding panelists, just remember that each one of them gets less time to talk.
Right. Helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other green bag lunch suggestions? Yes, Bob.
I was just thinking, and again, I'm picking from all of your ideas here, Peter, and we've mentioned this a number of times, the county. Let's find a way to involve the county more. Maybe I'm wrong on this, so correct me, but to me, that's the huge lift in central New York is the county. And I say in every aspect, so more education or more, such as health. Here's a perfect example. We have a diverse county. We have urban situations and we have rural situations. And the county health department is trying to handle it all. Maybe we can use the county's responsibilities of coverage to target some key sustainable issues. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, and it's a good thought, especially since Lisa Warnicki, has brought up the subject that the county disbanded our Environmental Management Council years ago and never put it back together again.
Yeah, and I think we could all add our own little points of view on that. I've been totally frustrated for at least 30 years with SOCPA's evolution, Syracuse Onondaga County Planning Agency. Not only and we do have sustainability plans, but we don't intend to force them or require them of the towns and villages. So there's a huge gap in purpose and delivery. And there's no more time for that, as many of you have said. We don't have time for this inefficiency of delivery of key issues. This has to go out and be understood by our Central New York, everyone in Central New York.
Yeah, and maybe the city will shame them when they revise their sustainability plan this coming year, hopefully.
Yep, Dave's got a point.
In that regard, what you might call our mutual and individual climate change responsibilities. Unfortunately, it's one of the big things that's missing right now. In other words, I can start with the individuals, what we can list those. I mean, for example, everybody should be thinking about electric vehicle and doing heat pump, ground source or air-to-air heat pumps and so forth and so forth. Those are 2 individual responsibilities that everybody should have on their checklist. But what about the city of Syracuse and Onondaga County and so forth? In other words, spreading that the responsibilities, they don't know what their responsibilities are. In other words, by 2030, we know that we're supposed to be, like half of our vehicles sold are supposed to be electric cars. Well, who in the and nobody is talking about anything about, for example, about stopping natural gas service, which they're doing in some places. You see, my point is that all of these transition responsibilities that communities have There's no so-called checklist. In other words, they don't, I don't blame the city or the county for maybe not using any of the $200 million they're getting to, you know, maybe they don't make electric snow plows right now, but they're coming, you see, and to have an analysis. I mean, for example, the county could be, at least they could be doing an engineering analysis of every building to see what the current strategies would be for conversion to renewable energy for every building, a county office building, whatever it is, and so forth, right down the line, and how much it would cost, and when we think we could accomplish that, and maybe we can do some of it now, you see. But because we should be working hard on those right now, not scratching our head wondering what we're supposed to do. You see, so one of the big questions that maybe we could help with is to gently push our municipal folks in city, county, towns, villages, whatever, toward realizing what their responsibilities are and to identify them and make a list and start to work on them. We can't wait for the federal government to do it, apparently, because there is no such thing on the federal level, you see. There absolutely should be. In other words, we all should know, like, how many wind turbines there ultimately by 2050 there should be in Onondaga County in order to satisfy our needs, so to speak. We should know those things, and how many wind farms, and one thing, how much storage, how much electric storage, where's it going to be? Is it going to be public or private? All of those things, you know, what's the plan? You see, there is no plan. There should be an absolute. We all should know those things. And then going back to me, you know, my individual list, you know, I mean, I've got 28 solar panels, but I still have gas heat, and you know, when am I going to switch to geothermal or whatever it is? Which I got two estimates for 36,000.
It's not cheap.
Anyway,
So David says they don't have a checklist, but my answer is yes, they do. They have the 12 traits of sustainable communities, which is a program that David, you were involved with, and John, Bob, you were probably involved with it as well, where we decided long ago and far away, before there was any such thing as the STAR community rating system. I mean, the genesis of this was way back in early 2000. Yeah. And we said, you know, because we all came from a design and construction background, we were from, you know, we came from a place where we were promoting the LEED rating system for green buildings. And Dave Ashley says, well, we need a rating system for communities, sustainable communities. And we came up with the 12 traits of sustainable communities. We tried to take a community and break it down into all of its component parts and take a look at how can we make, you know, what kind of policies can be put in place. So this is a checklist. And remember, the city of Syracuse went through this, and they are about to do it again. Barry Lentz is telling us that the mayor wants to work with us to revise and update the city sustainability plan. So we do have a checklist. We didn't make any of it up. We went looking for best practices all over the country and put it into this 12 traits of sustainable communities. Number one was government leadership. So we need government, you know, to a large extent to lead us into a sustainable future. And I asked Peter Arsenault, who could not be with us today, he is our 12 traits program manager, to come up with some bullet points, and instead he gave me paragraphs. But he wanted me to remind everyone that we created this way before there were any community rating systems. I mean, now the U.S. Green Building Council has got theirs, and there's another group that has the STAR community rating system, and there's another group that, you know, rates entire college campuses. But we have our 12 traits. The city is very familiar with it, and it goes on, you know, through government leadership and green building and land use planning, and there's 12 of those, and we even include healthcare and the arts, because we believe the arts are a critical part of a sustainable community. So one thing that Peter wanted to you know, just make sure that everyone understands this, that it's a holistic view of what it takes for a community to truly be sustainable. And he wants to know, what is the best way to get this resource out to more communities? Does anybody have any ideas? Because right now we are offering this up free. It's on our website, anyone can access it. Does anyone have any ideas how we can get this out to more communities?
I'll just say, Diane, I mean, it maybe, I'll dodge the question somewhat, but Dave's suggestion of, finding out and working more directly with Onondaga County would be a one place to start there, because we have the county government and then the town and the towns. I mean, if we could be sure that our county government and our town governments in central New York have not just a general plan, but specific plans for how they're going to meet the 2030 or 2050 requirements, is important. So, I think one important step is to try to reestablish or establish some communication with the county government in some respect. It's been several years since we have had the county folks come in and talk to us about what they're doing, about their sustainability plan. So Dave, I think it's a good point that you raise about bringing the county sort of back into this discussion here and find out what the heck's going on over at the county. I mean, it would be nice to have a staff person that is assigned the responsibility to sort of be in communication with the various municipal governments in at least in the central New York area. Maybe it's a part-time position like a circuit rider or something like that. Someone like a Barry Carr, but Barry Carr gets his funding through some other some program. But if we could figure out how to do that and to have someone who has got the firm responsibility to work with the governments a little bit on this, might be something we could do. It's maybe pie in the sky, but we can always dream, right?
Yeah, John, the county has a yearly planning conference. Remember that? There's a yearly for the planners, whatever you call it. And that's where they should be, let's say, coordinating and dispensing information to all of the little governmental units, the towns, the villages, and so forth. That they would be at least to know what their responsibilities are, and so forth. So that, I mean, people they just need to start to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It seems to me in the distant past, we actually had representative of GreeningUSA attend that yearly planning conference.
Yeah, we presented in, like you say, Diane, as part of the conferences in the past. They desperately need sustainable prioritization of their agenda for the planners. This is the required learning sequence, and it's funded heavily, and it's attended by a lot of people. And every so often, there's somebody who's right on target with either water or erosion or power. Solar, municipal solar has been gaining, and so they've had these seminars as 1 hour, continual learning situation. But I think you should raise the bar on the demand of what that education. Many of, I'd say 3/4 of them are not specifically on sustainability as a primary driver for the thinking, because it's not just about the details or the engineering. It's about the prioritization towards sustainable solutions that should be the overriding. And I think that's where we could influence the county in some ways by engaging them in assisting them and raising the bar on sustainable education programs. We don't have to do all of it,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, the planners, implement the laws. So we need to be sure that the laws are in place that they have to implement a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's a complex thing, but I think it should get a priority during the coming year. I think unfortunately in the past sort of 1 or 2 years, the priorities have sort of been this Route 81 thing that we've all been blindsided a little bit by some of the other basic stuff that that has to happen by the I-81 project, perhaps.
Yeah, the last one, we actually had the last one on I think February of 19, and the pandemic was like a week later. And so everybody was well aware. In fact, they weren't sure to come together for that. But
Right.
Another thing to your point, John, is that funding, federal funding and state funding for municipalities is much more addressing sustainable urgencies. And that's where we can help them maybe reorganize how they look at the everyday work of infrastructure and planning.
Diane, I wonder if a workshop on looking, or I should say a luncheon, looking on how other communities have arrived. For example, New York City, I believe, is voting to ban all natural gas construction by 2027 in buildings that are seven stories or under. And I know the town of Ithaca has really made tremendous strides in terms of their building codes. So, how did they do it? That could be an interesting workshop in terms of, because there's a lot of people in this community, we just don't know how to do it. How do we move Onondaga County to up its building codes, which covers the things that are mentioned in the 12 steps? I don't know how to do it. So it'd be interesting to hear what's the process in Ithaca. Was it 20 years of education, and how did they do it? Because in Ithaca, I think it's an interesting model. It's close by, So that would be a suggestion for a workshop. How did other communities get to the point where they've codified in their building code laws or wherever it is to do the things that the 12 steps cover, or at least in terms of like building codes, etc., not the whole enchilada. But
Yeah, actually, that was a really great idea, and we've invited, City of Ithaca is going to be presenting at the New York State Green Building Conference.
okay,
We invited them to come and talk about, how did you do that?
how did you do that? But could that also be like a green luncheon, perhaps?
We could put that in the list and see if they would like to come and talk to us about, how did you do that?
How did you do that?
Diane, I see that we're possibly getting close to the time limit, or maybe not possibly, but have.
Yep, we're there. I would invite anyone who wants to continue to contribute ideas to please reach out to us. And please remember that our board meetings are open, and anyone is invited to come and just act as an advisor. You don't have to be a board member. You don't have to have any board responsibilities. Just come and bring your ideas.
Yeah, we don't publicize, I don't believe, the upcoming meetings. And perhaps we could, but if you want to come, just reach out to one of us, Diane, preferably, and she'll get you on the agenda, or at least get you the link to participate.
Is there?
Good idea, John. I think I will put that in the newsletter and just put the date and have them contact us if they're interested in attending.
Where's the chat bar here? I don't know where it is.
See a little bubble that looks like it's a bubble in a cartoon?
Upper right-hand corner.
Which corner?
Upper right-hand.
Oh,
upper right.
Bubble.
Oh, it looks like a bubble. Oh, I see. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, certainly we tried to bite off way more than we could chew here, and love to continue a conversation anytime anyone wants to contribute. But
Diane, is this going to be posted on the website?
yes,
I didn't get the earlier part of the meeting.
okay. Yes, we've been recording and it will be on our YouTube channel.
Oh, the YouTube channel. Okay,
Yes,
excellent. Thank you. Good meeting.
anytime. Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us.
Yeah, I'll also say thanks to everyone. It's good discussion.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Super.
Diane.
thank you, Diane.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah.